Like most people growing up, I watched whatever my family watched, and in an era of almost endless options, we watched The Big Bang Theory. I was very young and found it charming, but I'm aware of its place as a cultural punching bag. So I'm going to try to take a critical look back and find out if it really deserves as much criticism as it gets. So the pilot starts with the two characters that are most central to the show, Leonard and Sheldon, talking about nerd stuff while walking into a sperm bank for extra cash. Leonard going so far as to say Sheldon is a pro at this. I remember thinking as a kid that this is strange considering Sheldon's asexuality is a very important part of the later seasons. Apparently I wasn't alone in this, considering they edited out of live play because they recognized that they ended up taking Sheldon a completely different direction. Apparently the differences are far worse in the unreleased pilot, but I'm not going to get into that here. On the way back home, they meet their new neighbor Penny and come off as so uncomfortable. Penny still agrees to go into their apartment to eat with them, even after Sheldon says this.
Well, today we tried masturbating for money.
And when the boys show Penny their apartment, we get to see the first example of Sheldon's elitism, as he puts down Leonard's work, calling it MIT bathroom scribblings. This begins character introductions, where Leonard and Sheldon explain that they play Klingon Boggle and can't process corn. Penny responds by saying that she's an aspiring Sagittarius actress. This prompts Sheldon to say that he doesn't respect people that believe in astrology. Penny isn't offended, but throughout the whole episode you get this vibe like she's just trying to manipulate the guys. Like she's being extra patient with these strangers because she needs their help with something. Around then, she expresses that she's been stressing out about getting her TV from her ex-boyfriend Kurt's apartment and that her shower doesn't work. Leonard is excited to solve the shower issue by offering his own, and Penny accepts. While Leonard and Sheldon are arguing about whether or not Leonard has a shot with Penny, the last two members of the ensemble cast arrive. Raj and Howard come in way too excited to show off an old Stephen Hawking lecture, because I guess that's a thing nerds do. Leonard tries to make them leave so they won't embarrass him, but Sheldon lets it slip why. Howard, upon hearing that there's a girl around, reveals his main character trait for the foreseeable future. He begins a line of questioning, ending in asking if he can sleep with her. They're interrupted when Penny comes out in just a towel to get Leonard to help her with getting the shower running. After he helps her, she just hops in and throws her towel on the floor before Leonard can leave. Leonard freaks out being in the same room as a naked girl, and Penny takes this opportunity to ask if Leonard will get her TV from her ex-boyfriend Kurt. He agrees.
Sure, you could ask me a favor. I would do you a favor for you.
And takes Sheldon with him, which is nice of him to come along. We cut back to find Penny trying to talk to Raj, who is not responding. Howard explains that Raj can't talk to girls because he's a nerd. We cut back to find Leonard and Sheldon breaking into Penny's ex's apartment building. They knock on the door with a lot of confidence, but when there's someone strong on the other side, they just forfeit their pants without any fight and go home. When the pantsless heroes return, Penny immediately apologizes for sending them off to be bullied. Though emasculated, Leonard still says a line that'll become infamous in the series.
Our babies will be smart and beautiful.
I don't know how much this is going to be like the rest of the show, but everyone looks bad here. Leonard seems willing to do or say anything to get into Penny's pants. Penny seems happy to lean into these feelings to get Leonard's help. Howard is way too sexually aggressive and Raj too passive. Sheldon's the most entertaining for sure, but part of that's just because he's not motivated by sex. He's coded as autistic, but it's really hard to tell if that's intentional. Like the writers could have gone in intending to make a good autistic character, but they also could have gone in intending to make just a stereotypical nerd parody, and this is where they landed. So to keep things interesting from here on out, I decided to go ahead and categorize all the episodes in the season. Outside of the pilot, there's 16 episodes. Subtract 1 for Howard and 1 for Raj, and then consider all Penny episodes Leonard episodes because of this season, she's basically just a romantic interest. That leaves 7 for them and 7 for Sheldon. This kind of tells us their goal with the series. Half of the series could be them farting out basic sitcom romance, and the other half would be the neurodiverse character keeping things interesting. I'm going to start by going through the romantic plot, since outside of that, there's basically no development. This is blatantly intentional, by the way. They packed all the Leonard and Penny plot at the beginning and end of the season because it's meant to be the most impactful. The first Leonard episode happens to be the hardest to categorize as Leonard's, because it's basically just a second pilot. It focuses on establishing how Penny feels about the guy's behavior. However, this series wants to set a tone where objectively violating behavior can be shrugged off, so they push the limit a bit. We start with the guys helping Penny with something to find that she's pretty messy. This bothers Sheldon so much that he uses a spare key that Penny apparently already gave them to sneak into her apartment while she's sleeping to clean. Penny is obviously terrified by this and takes her key back. This is only episode 2 though, so she forgives Leonard and Sheldon after getting to vent at Raj, who was just thinking about Penny being a girl the whole time. This would be a good time to bring up these videos by Pop Culture Detective that sum up an important argument I'll mention a lot. The characters in this series have some very offensive opinions, and they try to pretend this isn't an issue by adding a laugh track. They want to come off as self-aware, but they never address the nature of the problem with the joke. Instances like this episode show how being nerdy gives them passes to be total creeps with no real consequences. Sheldon didn't even seem to realize he had made a mistake at any point, even during his apology, but Penny didn't care. I'm not going to be going into this in too much detail right now, because my goal here is to talk about incidents as they happen and watch how their approach to these things grows over time. I recommend checking them out though, after we're finished here. Episode 3, The Fuzzy Boots Corollary, is another Leonard episode, opening on a joke that they're playing World of Warcraft. You can tell it's a joke because of all the canned laughter. Eventually Leonard gets sad that he's not dating Penny and sulks around, getting rejected by his colleague Leslie Winkle in a weird interaction. Sheldon snaps him out of it by reminding him that he never even asked Penny out, so he's sad for nothing. Leonard perks up and goes to ask Penny on a date, but she misunderstands and asks if the rest of the cast would be there. He doesn't deny it, saying that they might be. Leonard's all nervous and Sheldon comforts him. Quick note, I'm not going to be talking about costumes, but the outfits look like a Nick show, usually. The date happens and it's uncomfortable, ending when Leonard bumps his head. On the way back, Penny asks if Leonard wanted this to be a date, and he denies it. And that's the episode, not a whole lot to say. Skipping to episode 5, we have another Leonard plot that barely matters. Leonard starts seeing Leslie Winkle from last episode, and things seem to be going well. He likes her a lot, and Penny is a little jealous.
Oh, Leonard, you magnificent beast.
The episode ends with Leslie saying that she only wanted Leonard for sex, and that she's done with him. So nothing really happens, other than we now know for sure that Leonard would rather be with someone more like him than with Penny. So the only thing driving the two romantic leads together in season 1 is that Penny is attractive and next door. And that's basically it. Episode 6 is our first Halloween special, and to celebrate, Penny invites the guys to a costume party. They don't seem to be having a great time. Howard is being gross and Leonard is trying to mingle. He brought Sheldon with him, who just embarrasses him by trying to explain his Doppler effect costume. When Penny's ex Kurt comes in, Leonard goes to assert his dominance. He continuously insults Kurt until he gets assaulted. And by assaulted, I mean he got picked up. Leonard was fine, but he feels emasculated and runs home. Penny follows him to apologize for Kurt's behavior without mentioning how Leonard was being confrontational too. She ends up kissing him, but Leonard sends her home because he's drunk. This would be a decent thing to do. I just wish he didn't seem so upset that he had done it. This episode ends with Leonard rubbing the kiss in Kurt's face because he's got geek masculinity. Jumping to the end of the season, we have episode 14, The Nirvana Annihilation, where we open on the guys winning a time machine replica on eBay they believe to be like a scale model, but surprise, it's not. They go to get it up the stairs, which forces Penny to take a huge detour. She is understandably upset, but her words are a little harsh for Leonard. He wonders if his childish hobbies drive Penny away, so he goes to sell his toys. Penny apologizes, but Leonard assures her that he's doing this for himself. However, when it's revealed Penny has a guy over, he just goes back home to play with his friends. This is another episode that doesn't matter too much. Episode 16 is Leonard's birthday, but apparently he doesn't celebrate. Penny feels bad for him, so she plans a surprise party. It's Howard's job to distract Leonard while Penny helps Sheldon get a gift. Apparently the only distraction that worked for Howard was faking a medical emergency. He ends up inducing a severe allergic reaction when he realizes he needs longer, actually risking his life. He still blows it though by revealing the surprise on the way home. Leonard is touched, but the party is over. Not too much worth mentioning, just another Leonard-Penny moment to set up for the finale. Speaking of, we're finally there. We start with Penny having a pretty nasty breakup. Leonard tries to comfort her, messes up to pad time, then comforts her again. The second time, Leonard confesses his feelings to a crying Penny. They plan a date, but they're both anxious, going to Sheldon for advice. He tells them both a Schrodinger's cat metaphor, saying essentially, you don't know if you don't try. The episode, and by extension the season, ends with Leonard going to pick up Penny where they kiss, deciding Schrodinger's cat is alive. I know the finale needed to be a very romantic, plot-heavy episode, but it's the worst episode thus far. It just feels like nothing happens. We're done with the A-plot of the season, and it was pretty underwhelming. The finale is definitely the worst example of this. There's no fun stuff at all. The entire episode is lacking in humor and has really obvious padding. It feels like they can't balance the traditional sitcom format in the way they want to write the nerdy characters. I am hopeful this will change though, because later on every character gets romantic plots and becomes more necessary for the story. Right now, every character other than Leonard and Penny just exists for jokes about nerds. Sheldon has a lot of episodes, but Raj and Howard don't get the main cast treatment yet. You know how I said earlier Raj and Howard each get one episode? Well, that's barely the case. Howard has gone sleeping with Penny's friend his entire episode, and that's basically all that happens. Nothing more to say about episode 7. Raj's episode is sad. His one chance to be in the spotlight is just openly racist. The first Raj episode is him messing up an arranged marriage. I hope he gets more development later, because right now he's just a racist nerd stereotype. There's more to this story though, because remember, Raj can't talk to girls. This is where we find out that he can, but only while drunk or high. He still messes up the date though, because he was, well, drunk. Sheldon ends up taking the girl away, but not for sex, because this is where we have Sheldon's lack of sexuality confirmed, which takes us into our last set of episodes that focus on Sheldon. But don't worry, a lot of Sheldon's plots give the whole cast an opportunity to shine. In fact, we're going to start with the closest thing to an ensemble episode we get this season. We open on all the local nerds trying to get a look at Sheldon's sister Missy, who is visiting from Texas. Each of them try to woo her without much success. Leonard tries to better his chances by encouraging Sheldon to protect his gene pool. This works, and Sheldon tries to dictate his sister's love life until she hits him in the balls and things go back to normal. The next episode we're going to talk about also features Sheldon's family. He gets fired from his job at the university for calling his boss an idiot to his face, so his mom has to come down and force him to apologize. This episode defines Sheldon's ego, but doesn't make any progress with breaking it down. I'll go ahead and talk about 2 other episodes that basically have the same plot as this one. The first one having Sheldon refuse to allow Leonard to have work that they had done together be recognized. This leads to a huge public fight where Sheldon tries to explode Leonard's head with his mind. This was already an embarrassing thing to do in front of respected members of their field, but Howard ends up posting a video of the confrontation online, potentially damaging the career of his friends down the line. The next episode following this format maintains the public embarrassment aspect. The guys are going to team together for a physics ball, but Sheldon is being annoying. He doesn't let the other guys answer questions, and he threatens to quit if he doesn't get to pick the team name. They replace him with Leslie Winkle, who has a vendetta against Sheldon because he said she should quit her job and become a mother. Sheldon's ego leads him to believe he can take them all on alone, and he gets kind of close. He's barely behind going into the last question, but when it's time to buzz in, no one knows the answer. At least until a janitor that Sheldon pulled off the street happens to know the answer because of his previous life in the Soviet Union. Sheldon refuses to accept that somebody could be smarter than him, and does not allow the judge to take the answer. So Sheldon loses and everyone cheers. This is the worst example of the neurodiverse are just comedic punching bags writing trope that I've noticed this season. I know Sheldon was being a dick, but it's well established that he just doesn't see his actions through the same lens as the rest of the characters. So it feels bad to cheer when he loses because of it. The next group of Sheldon's episodes focus on a neediness that is hard to judge for the same reason. The first of which, Penny gets Sheldon sick and everyone runs away from him because it's too annoying to take care of him. Penny only helps because Sheldon finds her at work. The other episode in this format is kind of shocking. Sheldon is insecure because a younger, smarter person enters his field. His friends have no idea how to talk to Sheldon about his feelings, so they decide the best course of action is to sabotage the career of this 15-year-old immigrant genius. They set up a fake take your daughter to work day where the kid decides girls are cooler than science. The episode ends with this child drinking in the park and Sheldon happy again. This stands out tonally from the rest of the season so much that it feels like a completely different show. They're cartoonishly evil, like an Always Sunny character or something. This takes us to the last episode I haven't mentioned. All it is just a cartoon. Sheldon and Leonard lie to Penny to get out of commenting on her terrible singing, but Sheldon keeps taking it farther, eventually hiring an actor to play his drug addict cousin. And none of it was necessary because Penny never caught on at any point. That's every episode from season 1, so what were the most common themes? Well, lack of impact for one. Basically all that happens the whole season is Penny and Leonard are about to date. A lot of shows put the romantic plot front and center, but all the episodes about it feel kind of formulaic, and they don't develop the characters in any significant way. By the way, I didn't talk about every problematic moment, but they were there. Like here, where Howard uses a camera to sexually harass Penny. That's all I have to say about the show right now, but I recommend subscribing if you're interested in me talking about season 2.